Howie, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just don't know if I want first-class seat window with Carson Wentz bandwagon, or am I still going to be in coach right now? Where are you with Carson Wentz in the bandwagon?
I'm on whatever airlines my son owns.
What?
No, I think Wentz is. It's such an. We're throwing the ball now more than ever at every level. Said this many times. Pop Warner, middle school, high school, college. And we're no closer to really understanding or evaluating who the guy is coming out. It's harder and harder and harder because we're doing it out of the spread. And for the most part, quarterbacks aren't looking at fronts, coverages to a great extent. They're not huddling up. It's not red zone. It's not blitzes. It's not checks. Everything is from the sideline. It's on a wristband or it's on a card. This kid Wentz had elements of what you do at the next level at North Dakota State. And I would not be surprised, Dan, if every scout in the league is out there trying to, take a look at quarterbacks that are playing at that level, because that level of play has gone up quite a bit. And maybe there are some systems there. I mean, when you're looking at big systems, you're figuring out, well, where can I get a ready-made guy? Well, Stanford, Michigan State, Florida State has elements, Alabama, Wisconsin. Beyond that, you're looking at quarterbacks who don't take snaps under center, don't huddle up, and don't really understand fronts and coverages.
Well, it's an inexact science, as you just pointed out, that we keep trying to look at a guy and say he looks like he would be a great quarterback instead of somebody. I always thought Doug Flutie could play. It just, he didn't look the part. If he's 6'3", Doug Flutie is a Hall of Famer, but nobody would give him a chance. Russell Wilson was great, did everything in college, and then he gets to the pros and people go, yeah, he's just not tall enough. And I always think
both those guys, and they are an anomaly. They are an anomaly, and I think both of those guys played in different systems to what we have now. I coached against Russell in high school, and Russell was 20 when he was 10 years old. He's been mature, he's been smart, he's been poised, he's been a leader, he's been a great player. He was a great player there. I thought, well, he'll go to North Carolina State, and when I first heard he was going to North Carolina State, I remember the conversation he and I had that he was going there to play for Coach O'Brien, and he was a Virginia guy, a Navy guy, had been at BC, but he was an old-school coach, and I said, he's going to let you play quarterback and baseball? That surprised me, and it ended up being a problem. But he was great down at NC State. He was the player of the year the first year.
Wait, go back to
you on
were
the bench. They needed to get up, and they said, well, we just don't think it's right for you. He goes to Wisconsin with no spring ball. He ends up being the captain and leads them to the Rose Bowl. That's a little easier to see. Russell was the kind of guy that can make the transition. His transition wasn't about, scheme or recognition. It was about measurables. It was all about 2 inches, Dan. If he's 2 inches taller, as you said, he's top of the first round.
But let me go back. You were coaching against Russell Wilson, so you're coaching your son's team in high school?
Yeah, I coached for 8 years down here in Virginia. We couldn't beat him. I drew everything up. Ball side blitzes, spies, 4-man front, 3-man front, man coverage, zone coverage, you name it. We tried everything that you could possibly do, and he's doing exactly what he did then. And I always thought to myself, as big a fan as I was of Russell, I said, it's going to catch up to him at NC State. It's going to catch up to him at Wisconsin. When he gets to Seattle, it'll catch up to him. And God bless him. He's a remarkable young man. He really is.
Howie Long, Fox NFL Sunday analyst, Hall of Famer, joining us on the show. You get the good and the bad. Just this past week, your son playing for the Patriots, they win.
Yeah.
Your son playing for the Bears, they lose. What's it like watching?
It's no different, Dan. You have children, and I'm sure at some point, whether it's a sporting event or a play at school or a law debate, whatever it is, I'm no different than any other parent. I'm either sitting in a stadium somewhere in a corner, or I'm in a hotel room by myself, squatting in a chair, and going through every snap with them. And it's like Kyle was on the mound and in Little League or, high school or, college. It's the same thing with Chris. Chris, for me, has worked so hard and been through so much over the last couple of years. Pops a tendon in his ankle, has surgery. being a team guy, comes back, plays on essentially one leg, and same thing the following year, fractures his leg, and comes back probably 4 or 5 weeks too early, and is playing on one leg, and that's part of the process. At that age, if you're injured, you move on. And he had an opportunity to go to a number of different places, and I kept coming back to the same question: why are you playing? And he's playing to win. And he went to the place that gave him the least amount of definitive kind of idea of what he would be doing for less money. And I'm not saying for him it has nothing to do with the money. It's all about one thing. It's all about having the opportunity to win and be a part of it. And I've always felt like he was that kind of a player. He's always been that kind of a player, because I'd like to think I brought them up that way. You don't think about the money when you're playing. You think about the money when you're laying in bed when the light's out at night and you're thinking about the next payment on this or that, or, how do I send the kids to college, or, I've got an extended family member I need to take care of, whatever it is. I've always felt like I've been intrigued and fascinated by how that team goes about their business over the years, how they prepare, the team first, it's we versus me, their ability to change week to week, half to half, quarter to quarter, series to series, and not just from a scheme standpoint, but also from a preparation standpoint for each and every player to be able to do that I think it's fascinating. I always say it's hard to put history in perspective as it's happening, and I think 10, 15 years from now, Bill Belichick will be viewed as not only the coach of our generation, but quite possibly the best that's ever been.
Yeah, we've been discussing that with what Belichick did last Thursday night. I don't know what he's going to do this Sunday coming up, but it's almost.
Well, my son's a good Patriot, Dan. He gives me nothing.
When he came on with us, and you know how we love Chris because he would talk to you about everything. He came on, all of a sudden, he's got that cloak of the patriotism hanging over him. And I said,
what was that movie with Ben Affleck and Morgan Freeman where they finally got in the Russian nuclear facility, and Morgan Freeman said to Ben Affleck, I sent 5 agents to get into this place. None of them came back. I've been trying to get in here for 25 years. That's me. I've been trying to get in that building for 25 years. I've been just so fascinated by it, and I get nothing.
The sum of all fears, I think, is the movie.
Yes, I get nothing.
Maybe, do they have Bring Your Dad to Work? Could he bring you to work like with the Patriots there?
I've always, as I think I've even when there's open practices, I don't go. I can see everything on film, and that's really what I'm concerned about. And I would rather watch off to the side and by myself. And it's not like everyone talks about Peyton against Eli. Well, Peyton's not hitting Eli. I've had those. Listen, I've lived it. When you get Kyle, Chris, and young Howie, who's like Toro Tanaka, he's bringing in a foreign object from the closet. He's 6 feet and $180, and Kyle's 6'7", 325, and Chris is 6'3", 6'4", 270. Howie's got to go to the bag of tricks.
As you do every Sunday with Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah. Oh boy, we had that lightning delay this week, and we filled for an hour and 15 minutes, I think. But it was interesting, though, because as you know, in pre-games, you talk in 15, 20-second sound bites. So that kind of a fill for me is I use 2% of what I've read or looked at during the week in a pregame format. So for me, it was an opportunity just to talk football, which is great.
Well, it's great to talk to you again, as always. And tell the boys at Fox we said hello, and we'll talk soon, hopefully.
I will. Have you given those guys any kind of a raise recently? Because, I mean, that show's been successful.
No. I have
all
not.
ships rise in a high tide. Doesn't JB say that?
You know what? They're like the Patriots. Everybody's interchangeable, Howie.
Oh, I can be you, you can be me. Therefore, we're all interchangeable.
Yep.
Therefore, we're all replaceable.
Yeah. This is what happens here, and these guys know it, and they're not allowed to say anything as well. They're not allowed to talk to the media.
That's the price for greatness.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Howie.
All right, partner.
All right, that's Howie Long, Hall of Famer.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.